I said it. Sorry, but not sorry really. Drop them like a hot potato because they're not good for you. Hi friends, I hope that you're all doing well. So if you're new here, my name is Marielle. I'm a corporate mom to a 2-year-old and I also have a master's in psychology. So I love talking all about personal development, wellness, parenthood, relationships, productivity, work-life balance. So stick around if you want to see more of that. Today I wanted to talk about something that I've struggled with for the longest time, and I think that I'm already so much better at it than when I started a few years ago, but it's still something that I honestly really struggle with still until now. And that is people pleasing. And I know that I'm not the only one who struggled with this. I know that a lot of other people, specifically women, have also struggled with this as well. So I wanted to deep dive into that topic. And yeah, just go grab your drink or your snack and let's get started. So first, let's start with the signs that you are a people pleaser. So the first one that can be a sign that you're a people pleaser is that you feel taken advantage of. The next sign is that you might not always have the best relationship with other people. Third sign is that you're afraid of what other people might say or think about you. Another sign is that you find it so difficult when you feel like or you heard that somebody doesn't like you and you're trying so hard for other people, for everyone else to like you or have a good impression of you. Another sign is that you may have low self-esteem. Another one is that you may tend to agree to other people just to keep the peace. You might feel like you don't actually get to do things that you really want to do. You may have the urge to make others feel good and make sure that everyone else feels good, even if you don't particularly feel good yourself. And another big sign is that you might be afraid of rejection. So how do we actually become people pleasers? From my experience and what I've heard others go through, I think that most of us learn this through our environment, learn this from the way that we grew up, learn this along the way from when we were children until we become adults. And it's something that has been kind of reinforced along the way. And it could be that you've already started with low self-esteem to begin with, but it could also be that you didn't have low self-esteem in the beginning and then it just lowered over time. And then you feel like this pressure to perform or pressure to make yourself look good or this pressure to be liked by everybody else. You might have had the messaging that you need to think about how are other people going to perceive you, or think about what might other people say if you do X, Y, or Z. I think in a way that this affects women so much is because in society we have had the messaging a lot that we need to conform to these certain rules. We need to be a good girl, you need to, look a certain way, act a certain way, to be perceived in a good light, to be perceived well by other people. And if you don't, and other people think badly of you, then it somehow makes you not good enough. And those are what I've learned based on my conversations with other people, but also based on my personal experience as well. So what are the consequences of being a people pleaser? We need to realize that people pleasing is actually not beneficial to you, nor is it beneficial to other people. Because there are real consequences when you keep people pleasing, when you keep at this certain behavior. So one of the consequences of that is that you might feel some resentment towards other people, you might feel burnt out, you might feel disconnection, like you feel disconnected from other people. You might just feel emotionally exhausted. You might feel some frustration, some anxiety, or some stress. There might be a feeling of lack of authenticity because you can't express who you really are because you're trying to keep up this front of looking like this perfect version of yourself. And you don't feel like you're allowed to express how you really feel or how you really think. This can also cause low energy because you're constantly putting energy to put up this front who's not really you, because you just want to please everybody else. This can also lead to shallow relationships because if you're not authentic, if you're not really fully yourself, you cannot have deep relationships with people, not real ones, because they don't really know who you truly are. And you can only get deep, authentic connection with people once you really show who you really are inside. Another consequence of this is that you might be seen as fake because other people are very empathic, other people are very good at reading other people, and then they might see through you and see that you're just putting up a front and acting differently than how you actually feel. And they might see through that and they might think that you're being fake because they can see that it's not really how you feel, but you're acting a certain way. The thing is, you will never be everyone's cup of tea, and we need to realize that. There will always be people who love you, and there will always just be some others who don't, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how you act. There's actually this popular saying that goes, you might be the juiciest peach out there, but there's always going to be somebody who just doesn't like peaches. And I think it's such a good quote because you can try your best to be a certain way, you can be the most perfect person. There's always going to be somebody who doesn't quite like you. It's just, maybe it's the way that you walk, or it's the way that you talk, or the way that you flip your hair to the side, and then they just don't like it. It's just triggering them for some reason. There's just some things that some people don't like, and it's not something that we can control. So it's really important for us to take that into consideration and keep that in mind, that no matter how perfect you act, no matter how kind you are, no matter how helpful you are, no matter how smart or how pretty you are, there's always going to be somebody who just doesn't like you, and that's okay. That's actually none of our business. It's not something that we can control, and it's definitely not something that we can impose on other people. Now let's talk about some ways that we can stop people pleasing. So I think the first part is to really become more self-aware. Recognize that you are a people pleaser. Recognize that you have this tendency to try to make everyone like you. Just reflect on where you are right now. Like, if you take stock on who you are currently, how you are as a people pleaser, there can be also levels. There can be other people who are very much in the extreme side of people pleasing, and there are other people who might be just a little bit of a people pleaser, you know, depending on the situation or something. I definitely feel like I myself have been in the extreme end of the people pleasing spectrum, and now I am not a people pleaser just yet. I'm working towards it, but I feel like I'm already much farther along than I was before. Also think about, when do you actually start people pleasing and what can you do instead? So for instance, I tend to people please around people who I actually don't know, which is funny because, like, who actually cares? I tend to people please people who I'm not that close to. So for instance, my closest friends, my family, like, I don't try to please them because they already know who I am as a person. They already know what my personality is. They know me for who I am, and I'd like to say that I'm just as I am with them because I feel comfortable. Once I'm not comfortable with someone or with people, that's when the people-pleasing tendencies start for me. That's when I try to put up a front. That's when I tend to, you know, become very conscious about, how is this person perceiving me? How do I look? I hope I don't act weird. I hope I'm not being too much. I hope that they feel like I'm okay. I hope that they like me. And I catch myself when I think about those thoughts, and I try to reel them in, but I also try to notice them at the moment, and it helps me to realize, okay, these are the times when I start people pleasing. So as I mentioned earlier, it's so important for us to recognize that what other people might think or say or whatever about us is really none of our business. Try to learn to detach from what other people might think or say about you. And I know it's so difficult. I know, because I've been there. I know it's so difficult when for years you've been so preoccupied about, how are they going to perceive me? What are people gonna think? How are they gonna see me if I do this or that? Or how are they gonna judge me? And you can just get so preoccupied in those thoughts for a long time that you don't even really think about deeply, so what, you know? Like, sometimes I go into a spiral and I think about things like that, and I try to challenge myself and I say, so what? Like, and then what? Like, okay, if they don't like me, so what? Like, am I literally gonna die if they don't give me their approval?
Am I going to die if they don't like me? Am I going to die if like they think that I'm weird?
No, but somehow it feels so big when you're in your head and you're spiraling. So I think it's good to take a little bit of a step back and just detach, or try to detach, practice to detach from what other people might think or say about you. Because honestly, it's really none of our business. What I think about some girl is none of her business. That's on me. What I think about this person is none of their business. It's on me. And honestly, what a person may think or say about you is a reflection on them and not you. Because a lot of the times when we think things, especially negative things about other people, it's actually a projection of an insecurity that we might have about ourselves. A lot of times, other people who talk badly about other people is just because they feel bad about themselves and they feel insecure and they just are trying to make themselves feel better, and that's somehow the way that they feel like their coping mechanism or their defense mechanism to make themselves feel better about themselves by talking badly about other people. So it doesn't really say anything about the person itself that they're talking about. It really says more about them. So take it with a grain of salt, because it really doesn't matter what people think or say about you, because it says more about them than about you. Put boundaries in place. And I say this very lovingly, very big sisterly, because it's so important that we all have boundaries in place. And I know that boundaries are not always easy. They're not always the most comfortable thing to bring up to people. Sometimes people might feel a bit taken aback or take it personally, but at the end of the day, you need to protect your own peace. You need to protect yourself, and you need to put yourself first, because nobody else will. You know, at the end of the day, you're the only one who can really advocate for yourself. So put your boundaries in place. If you have a boss who's very demanding and it's really taking up too much time for you, you've been doing things late at night all the time, every single day this week, every single day this whole month, you need to nip it in the bud. And actually, the sooner you do it, the better. When you realize that it's starting to affect you negatively, that's when you really need to reel it in. And the earlier you speak up, the better, because if you don't speak up, people will just think, oh, she's fine, you know, like, I haven't heard her complain anyway, so it's fine. But they don't know what's going on in your head. They don't know how you feel. They can't gauge that. Maybe they think, yeah, you know, like, that's just normal. They might not realize that how they're acting is affecting you so negatively. And if you just bring it up, sometimes if you just say something, then they realize and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that that's how it's coming across, or that's how it's affecting you, or anything like that. And sometimes you just really need to have that conversation, no matter how difficult it is. So make sure that you have your boundaries in place, protect your peace. In relation to that is to practice saying no. So I know that people pleasers, myself included, it's so difficult to say no, because we feel like, oh, if I say no, then, you know, they might think this and that of me, or they might think I'm this, or I'm selfish, or whatever. But that's not the truth. You need to realize that it's okay to say no. And you should say no to some things. You can't possibly do all the things and still be okay. We only have 24 hours in a day. We have limited amount of energy, and we need to conserve it. And you need to be able to say no to things that are not serving you, to things that are not going to be good for you. Unfortunately, there are always going to be people who see that, and there's people who will prey upon those kind of people because they see that you're a people pleaser, or they see that you're such a nice person and you're this and that, and they're like, oh, if I ask her, it's gonna be fine, you know, she's like so fine with it, and she always says yes anyway. And sometimes they really do take advantage of those people. And there are people who do that, really, like, subconsciously or not. So you need to protect yourself, and you need to be able to say no. So practice. If you want, you can practice by saying no to small things first. Practice by saying no first to people who are closer to you, who you feel more comfortable with, and then slowly build up from there. The next is letting go of things or people who are not good for you. So I'm talking about all of these toxicity, all of these toxic relationships, all of these people who I just mentioned earlier, those who prey upon people who are vulnerable, those who prey upon people pleasers. These people are not good for you. These are not your true friends. These are people who don't want the best for you. They're just thinking about themselves. I said it. Sorry, but not sorry, really. You need to let go of these people. Drop them like a hot potato, because they're not good for you. And I'm saying this in the most loving way I can, because I know I've been there too. I've had people who also, made me feel not so great about myself. I've had people who, instead of bringing me up, making my self-esteem better, they just put me down. And I had to let go of those people. And if I can do it, so can you. And a lot of people have done this, and you're not the first person who's going to be doing this, so it's okay. Honestly, if you think about it, what's the worst that can happen? If you let go of these people, you're going to have your peace. You're going to feel so much better because you don't have that weight on your shoulders. You don't have that constant nagging. And I feel like you're just gonna feel really more at peace if you let go of these people. You're not gonna have these such negative thoughts as much anymore because these people are gone. And yeah, it's just protect yourself, take care of yourself. This one is something I really love. It's building your own self-confidence. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the causes of low self-esteem, or one of the signs that you might be a people pleaser, is that you might have low self-esteem. And that was me before. I had really low self-esteem. Like, it's really sad. Like, honestly, I'm laughing about it now, but it's a bit sad when I think about young me, and I wish that I could hug young me and tell her it's gonna be okay, that I'm gonna feel so much better later, and everything's gonna be, everything's gonna be fine, and I'm like good enough as I am right now. Just build your confidence. That's going to really help you to get over people pleasing. Maybe not completely, but it is like one of the foundations that you can put up. And you can do this through positive self-talk, giving yourself affirmations every single day. There's a lot of affirmations everywhere. You can find this everywhere. You can find it on Pinterest, on Google, wherever you want. And you can put this as like a wallpaper on your phone, or wherever you can see it, on your mirror or whatever, that you can see it every day, and that you can tell this to yourself every day, so it makes it easier for you to remind yourself. And yeah, it's just a good way to kind of brainwash yourself a little bit in the best way possible by talking positively to yourself, because we tend to talk so negatively about ourselves that sometimes it's like you would never talk to your friend the way that you talk to yourself, And we need to be our own best friend. And to do that, we need to start by talking positively to ourselves. And, if we let ourselves talk negatively about ourselves, how much more other people? If you treat yourself so negatively, if you treat yourself so badly, how are you going to be advocating for yourself with other people? How are you going to protect yourself and take care of yourself against other people when you need to, if you're not protecting yourself from your own negative thoughts and your own negative self-talk? So start within, start with yourself, start small, and just start by saying these positive affirmations to yourself, because it can really do a lot of things, and it can really help. It sounds really small, but it really does help to build up your self-esteem over time. And so with all of these practices, methods, ways, just start small. I know that it can be a bit overwhelming if you try to do all of these things all at once. So just start small, start with one thing, and start incorporating it slowly into your routine. Start practicing it slowly, and that's always how you get the best results. It's never through trying to do everything all at once, or trying to do something from 0 to 100. It's always from taking the small first step that you can make a real difference. So I hope that this was helpful for you. Those are things that I actually implement in my own personal life to help with my people-pleasing tendencies. And I want you to know that it's completely fine if you are. It's still okay and you can still change. Definitely, I have already changed so much since when I first started working on this, and you can too. You can definitely become better at it, and it's definitely something that doesn't have to be your norm, doesn't have to be your permanent reality. This is something that you can still change and you can still improve on. And I'm a living example of that. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. I love giving my opinion and advice and just helping people out. So if you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and let me know if you like this topic. Let me know what other topics you'd like me to discuss for the next videos. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!